I don't like these movies.
Get real.
Dude, I saw that movie 20 goddamn times!
Just consume product. I watch my movies. Yeah, my movies are the best.
Having so much fun! And
No, this movie's too complicated.
So, once again, no smoking in this theater.
You're my baby girl.
Hello and welcome back to Idol Film Club, your Brain Rock Girlfriend's favourite film podcast. I'm Gio.
And I'm Callum.
And we are back today to talk about a brand new release.
Yes, sir, brand new.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Is it though?
Not really, no.
No, David Lynch died on Thursday night
Yeah.
in the UK.
So sad.
So yeah, there's lots of downers, but nice tributes and everything, seeing come in from the cast of Twin Peaks and people like Laura Dern and Naomi Watts, Nicole McLachlan, so that's nice. He lived a great life and left behind a great legacy. But it's still very
Definitely.
sad we're not going to get any more David Lynch films.
Yeah.
But in terms of a sign-off, that third season of Twin Peaks is nothing short of a miracle. So I'm glad that happened. But yeah, very sad.
If you're sad, just think poor Carl McLachlan is much,
Yeah,
much
Jesus.
sadder.
Did you see
Bless
the
him.
tributes outside the Big Boy in Los Angeles?
No.
Yeah, there's loads of flowers and people leaving cigarettes and coffee and stuff.
One cinema, they allowed smoking
Yeah,
for like one
yeah.
day, right?
Yeah, they had a screening of Inland Empire in New York, and they handed out cigarettes and let everyone smoke inside, which is very nice.
Oh.
But no, yeah, very sad. But we push on.
It feels like a bit of a morose farewell to an era of
yeah,
filmmaking, and
there's no real replacement for David Lynch. And
Sadly
I don't
not.
think there ever will be.
But after that, we're going to be seeing once again beautiful blue skies and golden sunshine all along the way. Everyone, have a great day.
But at least Martin Scorsese's going to live forever, so that's good. We never
he's
have
not
to,
really older.
We're
anymore.
never going to have to deal with Martin Scorsese dying, or
Yeah.
John Waters, or anyone like that.
But anyway, let's try and lift your mood
Yes, sir.
and talk about 2025's so far smuttiest movie,
Yeah, just
Baby
about.
Girl.
Hey, how'd you get that dog to calm down?
I gave it a cookie.
You always have cookies on you.
Why, do you want one?
Baby Girl, we saw it. You've seen it.
I've seen it twice now.
I saw it last night
For the
at
first
the
time.
cinema for the first time, and yeah, I dug it. It's good.
Yeah, you really liked it.
I did like it, but I'm excited to hear your thoughts as you have a contrarian opinion that it's, I think, quoted last night, a masterpiece.
I do. I think it's fucking amazing. So I think the aim of this episode, my thesis,
Yes,
a la our Poor Things review, I'm just going to talk at you as to why this movie's excellent.
and to try and get me on side. I like it,
Yeah.
but I thought it was a good movie, and that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah,
for
no,
me.
that's absolutely fair.
So I'm excited to get into it. Which shall we?
Yeah, fuck it.
Let's
Let's go.
fucking go, Baby Girl, everyone.
Good girl. Good girl.
So, directed by Helena Rain. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's my anglicised pronunciation of it
Yeah.
anyway. A24, who also did Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yes.
Which we actually talked about on last week's episode. We
Did we?
mentioned how we didn't like the cynical
Yes,
tone
yeah.
of it.
I like Bodies though. I
Thing
don't
is, it's not
even
even
really like Bodies that much.
And 18, I think probably the softest 18 I've seen in quite a long time.
Yeah, really, really soft.
Which is a little bit disappointing, but I can understand that it's a more like emotionally driven
Mature.
eroticism than like visually explicit.
Yes.
But the implicitness of it, I think, is sort of the point. But anyway, an hour and 54 minutes, a $20 million budget, and I believe it's just, as of now, just about breaking even over. It has a 6.5 on IMDb, a 3.1 Letterboxd, a 77% Rotten Tomatoes, and an 80 Metascore. So people
well received.
Well received. People like it. I don't think many people feel as strongly about it as I do, but I think people like it for the most part. I do think it's been a little bit of a victim of like its own marketing. I think people were sort of expecting it to be a 50 Shades, and it is not.
No, it's not at all that.
Say it again.
I'll do whatever you tell me to do.
Good girl.
I sort of went into it expecting that, and when the big 18 comes before
Yeah,
the screening and
yeah.
you see strong sex, I was like, oh, buckle up everyone, here we go. And it was a bit, oh, okay, pretty tame.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. Again, once again,
We've just watched Crash, so
and we are
We are
victims of our own
generation.
perverse,
Yeah.
viewing habits. I guess,
sure.
because we've watched a lot of New French Extremity and
Yeah,
Vincent Gallo sucking dick and shit. So
Yeah.
anything that doesn't involve
Hardcore penetration.
hardcore penetration, I'm just like, oh, this
Okay.
isn't Love by Gaspar Noé. What's the big fucking deal?
Yeah.
What was the other film we saw the other day? Nosferatu. Fucking hell, it was like an after school special.
Yeah, I mean,
Everyone's like, oh my god, there's too much sex in this movie. And it's a fucking Sesame Street level of
Yeah.
fucking nudity.
I mean, this is
Seen
different,
Culture
but,
Pingu episodes.
yeah.
Anyway, that's my rant over.
Yeah.
Everyone should stop being prudes. That's my take away.
Yeah, no, I could agree with that, to be honest. Let's get into our horny era.
Yes, 100%.
So do you want to give us a little rundown of the plot?
Yes, sir. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, spoilers. We're going to spoil the movie.
Ahoy.
Don't listen if you haven't seen it and you're worried about spoilers.
Yeah, this will spoil the movie in its entirety.
Yeah, so
and
go watch it and come back. And actually do. And if
Yeah,
you don't
watch
think you're going
it.
to watch it, listen anyway. Listen on mute so we get the views.
If I were you, I'd hurry up.
Okay. CEO boss bitch Romy, played by This Pot Is Making You Aggressive, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
This pot is making you aggressive.
Looking intentionally botched.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of the character.
Surgery phase. Yeah.
She nearly gets mauled by a dog outside her work,
Hmm.
but it's stopped when a young man recalls the dog, and he turns out to be Samuel, one of the new interns at her company that do warehouse packaging.
They're like an AI.
Computer factory thing. Yeah, very, very weird. I don't know do you have any theories on that? We'll get into it later, but I have no idea what that's supposed to mean.
I've got a little bit.
Okay, we'll get into it. So yeah, he turns up to be the new intern, and he takes an interest in her. He signs up to her to be a sort of tutor or mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Romy, she is dissatisfied with her sex life with her husband Jacob, played by Antonio Banderas.
I have seen a lot of people online being like, come on, you really expected us to believe
Yeah,
that
I
Antonio
know.
Banderas has no game. And like, you've never seen, I think it's called Atame. I don't know if that's the pronunciation.
Is that the movie set in like the 1400s?
No.
Oh, what's that one you were watching?
That Antonio Banderas and
Yeah.
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
I can't think what
Can't
that name
remember.
is. I got that off a TikTok recommendation. The movie's garbage, but their sexual chemistry is great. There's a movie, it's called Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down.
Yeah.
And Antonio Banderas kidnaps this woman inside her own like apartment
Oh
building.
my god.
Yeah, it's worth a watch.
I like Antonio Banderas a lot. I think he's fantastic.
He's really
I love
good
him
in this
since
as
Spy
well.
Kids.
But he's looking hella Delphi in
No,
this.
he is.
The biggest scene Antonio and I had was like, I won't spoil it, but we get physical. And I was like, this is strange, having to fight with Zorro.
Unfortunately, he's never given her an orgasm.
Yes.
As we come to find out later. So she's pent up and stressed, and she watches pornography after they have sex.
You literally, after the first scene, you turned to me, mouth agape.
Yeah,
and
I was like, oh my god, here we fucking go. Kuma fucking gooning.
See, I
goonette.
think also you got the thing that I got with Honora, where I think it's a fucking great start to the movie.
Yes.
And the tone changes quite a lot.
Yeah, I think so. I just thought, from that point, I was like, oh, this is going to be a fucking explicit sex freak
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Her and Samuel, the intern, slowly start having an affair. It starts with like kisses and then goes on. And they have a dominant and submissive partner roles in this relationship. I really do think the build-up is great.
So good.
It takes its time. The chemistry and tension builds to like boiling point. Both of their attitudes are very funny, I think.
I said this to you. My favourite part about this movie, and maybe it's just one of those movies where it's just my sense of humour to a T, but I think this movie is hilariously funny.
Yeah.
Like, I was laughing out loud throughout pretty much the entire movie.
Yeah, it's very good.
But maybe that's just like my particular sense of humour, but their back and forth, her just like stubborn awkwardness, and his like,
she's so weird.
yeah, but she's a sex freak.
Yeah. And a
he's-
CEO.
Yeah, and he just like is just like a petulant child
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes. So their dynamic works really well.
Get on your knees.
No. What?
Get on your knees now. Is that what you want?
But then he starts breaking sort of boundaries that Romy feels comfortable with, like showing up at her family's house,
Yeah, sitting down and
sitting down and talking about shit, and then he shows up with her PA,
Esme.
is that her PA, Esme, at her daughter's birthday party.
Yeah,
It
they
just
show up as a couple.
They show up as a couple and it starts getting uncomfortable. Esme eventually learns of Samuel and Romy's affair and basically threatens to go public. Throughout her sort of arc in the film is that she's very much a feminist in a capitalist workspace, and it is that it's a difficult one for me, my politics, because I'm like, this isn't feminism, this is capitalism. And I think the film intentionally does go there. When Esme learns of it, she sort of threatens to go public with the information and almost blackmails into getting a promotion.
I want $10 million a year for the rest of my life.
She does, in a way where she says she blackmails her, but in a way that's so implicit.
Yeah,
because
it's
she's
not...
like, oh, it may have worked in your day to blackmail people into it, and that's not what I'm doing. She's like, you will give me what I deserve.
I guess so, but I don't trust Esme's intentions. I think she's a pure capitalist. She just wants to climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
It's not about feminism. It's not about women in the workplace. It's just about her own success, which is one of my flaws with the movie. Is everyone in this movie is sort of really self-involved, but I'll get into that. That's one of my criticisms. Romy then, obviously feeling threatened, tells Jacob, her husband, of the affair. She lies while doing it. It's like complete half-truths, and it's the most lackluster confession you'll ever see in your life. He gets pissed off, obviously, and kicks her out. She finds Samuel in her pool in the country house.
Yeah, she
Again, we're supposed to have sympathy for anyone who has a country house with a pool. And they go inside and talk and stuff, and Jacob walks in on them and starts a fist fight. And at this point, I'm like a member of like WWE Raw crowd, I'm like, batter the little fucking shit, fucking break his neck. And he ends up having a panic attack, and Samuel ends up being the one to sort of calm him down and check in on his breathing. It's a very odd moment, but sort of bittersweet.
I thought they were going to kiss, and I was like, this movie is going to be the best movie I've ever seen in my life.
Samuel leaves, ends up going to Japan. Romy and her husband, Jacob, sort of rekindle their spark, I guess, but in a sort of dishonest way, where the film ends on her having an orgasm with Jacob, but they're basically doing an act that was part of the affair, and she's obviously thinking about Samuel as she does it. So there's sort of layer of dishonesty, and I don't know how else to put it.
See, that's interesting.
That's how the film ends. She orgasms with Jacob.
That's interesting, because I'm now curious to see whether or not I can sway your opinion on these characters.
Yeah.
Because I had an almost entirely different takeaway from the conclusion of the movie and the conclusion of the characters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
So I'm curious.
Start where you want to start, and we can circle round, obviously.
Starting with, I tell you what to do and you do it.
So just to give you a little bit of context in terms of what characters we're working with, you've got Romy, who's played by Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
In the story, she is 49 years old.
Yep.
Jacob is her husband, played by Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
He is 58.
Okay.
So he's like 9 years older than her. You've then got Samuel, who's the intern, played by Harris Dickinson. He's 25, and so is Esme.
25?
Yeah.
Younger than me, but...
Yeah, and Esme is also 25. So she's higher up, but still the same age.
Yeah.
Isabel, the eldest daughter, who's a lesbian, is 15.
Okay.
And Nora is 13.
Okay.
So those are sort of the ages that we're working with.
Do you have any... Because I thought a really interesting character point of Romy was obviously her upbringing, which is alluded to a couple of times, that she grew up in communes and cults. Yeah. Very obvious themes of control and obedience and things like that, which obviously play into her sexual desires, but I didn't know that it's a very odd plot point to have, but I liked it. I thought.
Do you have any other just like random tidbits that you thought about the movie, or things you thought were interesting, or things you didn't understand, or because I've now seen this movie twice, and watching it for a second time, I loved it the first time I saw it, and I was blown away by it the second time.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, not really. I thought I'm interested to hear what you have to say, because I might be thinking too little of this movie in terms of I viewed everything as very face value.
That's interesting.
I could sort at every point in the movie knew what was coming.
Yeah, I will say...
There's not a lot of twists and turns, is there? It just sort of plays out.
Yeah, some of the commentary
life.
at times is a little on the nose, but I found it funny
Yeah.
in a way where I sort of found it wink wink.
Okay.
What did you do? Go to a library? Look that up?
This is what I'm talking
No,
about.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No.
So I guess the first thing to sort of talk about, which you brought up last night, this is just sort of different things that I have about the movie. So I've got some character bits, I've got some thematic bits, I've got just some random tidbits. So obviously Nicole Kidman is looking cunt right in the face.
Oh,
She's
yes.
got her cunty business casual outfits.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the costumes and stuff later because that also plays a really interesting part in the movie. But one of the things I really like, you said last night, there's too many needle drops. You don't like needle drops in a movie. It's just not.
I like. It depends what sort of movie. Even in Anora and things like that, I'm like too much needle drop like music video shit. I hate that. I hate montages to music, especially when they play the whole song.
Gonna be.
Yeah. Oh my god. Shout out Xavier Dolan for being honestly a moron, but making great movies.
So what I like so much about this and the use of music in the movie is the use of media in the movie plays a sort of meta role in conveying the narrative.
Okay.
So it's almost like, to me, and again, these are just my opinions.
Yes.
You can disagree or, but it seems like every single thing in the movie is desperately trying to get Romy to see her truth, which is that she cannot repress these desires. She's doing a disservice to herself by repressing this. So, for example, when she first sort of has an interaction with Samuel at the party, you've got Dancing on My Own by Robin playing. Yeah. Obviously, the lyric, I keep dancing on my own kind of thing. You've got the play that Jacob writes.
Yes.
He's like an theatre director, but again, this is sort of like she is the provider in this sense. He has a traditionally non-capitalist job in the sense
in the arts.
He's in the arts
and a dying art of theatre. Yeah.
And she's like a provider, and she is the homemaker, and he's almost like a kept man. Not really,
totally,
but he's a house husband and he's a good dad to their children, whereas she probably isn't as good of a mum as he is good of a dad. But she still makes lunch for her kids and all that stuff. We'll get into motherhood later.
Sorry, dude, if you can hear the bottle smashing, we live above a restaurant basically, and they drink a lot of wine.
So in the play, one of the characters, because he's saying it's not about, I can't remember what he says. It's not about romance, it's about suicide or something.
Yes.
And in the play, the character literally says to the other female character, "You're not really happy," and that's the bottom of it.
Right.
So there's all this sort of like underlying. Again, I didn't pick up on this the first time I watched it, but having rewatched it and knowing exactly what happens, there's so many of these little bits that I thought were so interesting. And obviously got the INXS song Never Tear Us Apart, which amazing song, and I think it's used so well in this.
I don't think it's used well in this.
Interesting.
I think so many of these songs, my opinion is that they're pretty obvious.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, even the Dancing on My Own thing, I sort of almost rolled my eyes at.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we get it.
I think the more intertextual stuff is better than the needle drops.
100%. So what you said about the play, I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't pick up on that. That's interesting.
But also, you've got Father Figure by George Michael, which is a massive point. It's fucking hilarious, and it's so on the nose that it comes back around to being funny to me.
Also, just a quick shout out to that NXS song, because it's in the Donnie Darko director's cut where the Killing Moon is in the theatrical. And see it again. They should just, they're retired like basketball jerseys. They should retire needle drops when they reach a peak.
Yeah, got you. Too many.
No, I just mean like,
if one's so perfect, you shouldn't use it again. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
get what you mean. I mean, you do just have a bias because Donnie Darko is like...
Yeah.
And also the needle drops in Donnie Darko are used so...
That's what I mean. I don't mind that in Donnie Darko because they're all choreographed.
Yeah.
Like, it is montages, but they're all choreographed to the beat.
Go and listen to our Donnie Darko review where we just
I want to
obsess
watch Donnie Darko right now. Anyway, baby girl.
You got Father Figure and then Esme's speech at the end after she gets promoted. I'll go into that a little bit later when I talk about Esme's character. But again, the sort of extra diegetic, the songs are far more on the nose and to me intentionally funny.
Possibly,
I saw it as more of a tongue-in-cheek. I don't have a problem with needle drops at all. I just thought it was funny.
George is on record as saying that Sucker Punch is her favourite movie.
I love it.
What you're imagining right now, you control this world.
to get sort of into the main theme of the movie, you've got sort of obviously repression and shame associated with female desire. You mentioned about the cult upbringing. I didn't even pick up on that the first time. The way that she says it almost sounds as if she's like lying when she's like, oh, I was named by a guru.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that true? That doesn't seem true.
But there's flashbacks in the movie constantly.
Yeah. So she talks about the lack of boundaries, being raised in a cult, and she sort of uses this as an excuse when she's like confessing everything to Jacob, and he's like, I don't want to hear your excuses, kind of thing, which is absolutely
valid.
Which is valid.
And also, if it's sort of obviously sex is used in cults a lot of the time.
Mind control.
Not like whether she was like, I mean, if someone says they grew up in communes, you think of like Children of God and like those sort of cults.
Weird attitudes towards.
Well, yeah, you probably have to provide sexual favours from the time you were 13.
Yeah, and boundaries in terms of like nudity and acceptability. I don't know what the word is, but acceptance in terms of like abiding by societal standards and norms.
It's interesting, isn't it?
And she just the whole movie is essentially her inability to deal with the shame that she feels around her sexuality, and that is sort of further enforced by her husband, which we'll sort of go on to later.
Yeah, it's bad, isn't it?
But there's several attempts where you see her sort of trying to just satisfy her needs in a way that won't be off-putting or, you know, so like when it's funny, it's like a comedic scene, but she's got the sheet over her head and she's like, can we watch porn while we have sex? She's just trying to...
I feel bad for her in that moment where it's like, oh, she's trying to just get anything out of this.
Yeah, because he doesn't hear her and then she won't say it again and then she covers her head with a pillow and he's like, oh no, I feel like a villain and you just know that...
There's just no compatibility sexually there, is there?
And that is the big theme of the movie. He's perfect in every other way.
But he can't get her off.
He's a great husband. You know, he dotes on her. He tries to get her to be present and to be, you know, but this one thing is just not.
And it's such
there.
a big one thing.
It can the biggest thing.
It can trump everything else.
Yeah, exactly. And again, tying in with the theme of like everyone around her is just like trying to get her out of this. When she does her first speech, you know, she prepares for it at home. Jacob helps her write a speech. And
it's the line that gets called out as being good.
Yes.
And she was like, oh, that was Jacob.
Yeah.
Because Esme is like, it's something about humanity within AI or something. And she's like, oh, that line's great. Like, and she's like, oh, that's my husband.
But Hazel, who's like the marketing director, she's not really that big of a character, but she is just another marketing woman.
Right.
Can you remember when Romy finally goes out to have drinks with like the company and the interns? Esme starts speaking and the woman sort of dismisses her and Romy's like, no, listen.
Yeah, it's very much an old school sort of pull your bootstraps up attitude as opposed to the obviously Gen Z attitudes. And
when she's doing her initial speech, the Hazel, the marketing woman, basically says to her, she says something about weakness and she says, don't use weakness. It's positive to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So it's like her existence within this patriarchal capitalism is ridding her of her ability to be human. And like she grew up in a time where weakness was a vulnerability. It was a bad thing. But the times they are changing.
Exactly. Shout out Timmy.
Yeah. So with obviously the Gen Z influence and things like that, they don't necessarily place value on hierarchy. And we see this through Samuel's character.
Yeah.
And again, she has EMDR therapy, which is basically used to like try and like recover memories and process emotions and try and sort of connect with your emotions.
Right, yeah.
And there's also, it's sort of in a montage where she does the EMDR therapy and she also goes into like the cryo chamber and is doing all like the beauty procedures.
Yes, I didn't realise that was therapy. I didn't realise what was going on there.
So again,
I just thought it was weird, like health shit I didn't know about because I'm too poor.
Yeah, no. And it gets brought up later about having therapy as well. So she's doing the EMDR therapy. The therapist is like, what do you feel? And she's like, nothing. But you see the images of Samuel and the dog and they're just like, she's obviously feeling something, but she just cannot be honest.
Yeah.
She is like a pathological
pathological
liar in the sense that she feels so much shame and guilt and repression that she just can't tap into her emotions, because if she admits them out loud, that's it.
Yeah.
She has to admit that she's not happy and she's not satisfied, even though on the surface everything is perfect.
And when she does finally admit that, it blows up in her face.
Exactly.
Being a CEO means being a collaborator and a nurturer.
Obviously, she tries to resolve these issues, but her refusal to be honest with herself means that she can't actually address these issues. She goes to the therapy and just lies the whole time.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm trying. It's like, but you're not actually accessing what you need to access. And I think that's quite relatable for people who shove stuff so deep down that they physically can't connect with it. And they feel so detached from their sexual desire because of how intrinsically it's put on to you to feel shame and to feel, and we even see that, we'll get to it later, but with Jacob's character, like female desire is so intrinsically viewed as either male gaze or, you know, this all comes back to changing attitudes with Gen Z. But like you say, the worst outcome happens. She goes to a bar where Samuel's working to try, and she breaks down in tears and is like you said in the summary, she's like, you've never made me orgasm. Like,
and this is after she orgasm. Great orgasm acting, by the way, from Nicole Kidman.
she does a great job.
Very vulnerable and very brave performance.
It is. It really is.
She orgasms with Samuel.
Yeah.
For the first time, and it is that sort of release and like
because she's like, I'm gonna pee, and it's like, yeah, girl, you're meant to.
Yeah. And it is that the build up's so good and so patient that it is the payoff of that orgasm is, as an audience member, you're just like, oh, thank fuck, finally.
Yeah. So after all this, she then confesses to Jacob that she's never had an orgasm, and then like breaks down crying, and then it's obviously really awkward, and then she basically like runs out in the pouring rain to go and find Samuel at the bar that he works at part-time, because he's obviously only an intern. She basically gets asked to leave by one of his colleagues who's like 24 years old or something, and it's just like abject humiliation because she's put everything on the line for this, and he doesn't even. Obviously, they do reconcile a bit afterwards, but even like he is just like, if this is what you want, be honest. And she's like, I don't know. Listen, she does know.
It's frustrating as hell.
It is, but she needs to be freed from that control that she has to have over everything, and the control that has been put on her by her job and by her role in the household and all this stuff. And like you said, even during the final like confession to Jacob, she's still lying.
Yeah.
And like the lengths that she goes to like rid herself of this unspoken shame becomes her shame.
Yeah.
Because every bad thought she's ever thought about herself is true because of how far she's let this go.
Yeah.
In terms of, she's had to go to this length to satiate her desire because she won't actually accept the fact that this is what she wants.
And now there's a new layer of shame involved with that.
Because she's
been dishonest.
Yeah. She's fucked over her family. She's fucked over a man who loves her.
Yeah.
And she loves him.
Yeah.
She does love him. But when you're not feeling that satisfaction, and she has a high stress job and she's a highly strung woman, you know,
very much so,
but she is the best mother and the best wife when she is sexually satisfied. Like that sort of bit towards like the, I don't know, after about like 40 minutes everything's happy. And do you remember the scene where they the daughter Isabel and her girlfriend Mary, I think her name is, and they're all sort of sitting around the dinner table, and they, after that scene, like get under the covers and are having a debrief, and they're like so in love and so happy. And even though she's cheating on him, this freedom of her sexuality gives her the ability to be a good wife and a good mum.
That's true.
And it's such an interesting like dichotomy of her. She's cheating on this man.
Yeah.
But it's so, she can be her best self when she's freed from this like unrelenting burden of her shame around her sexuality.
Yes, there's sex, but it's existential in its crisis. A woman's having an exploration of who she is at this particular age in this relationship, the different roles that she plays, her desire to sabotage herself at times, her desire to hold on to her power and then relinquish it. There's so many different push-pulls through it, and it's very, very honest.
It's obviously also quite contemplative in terms of aging and what it's like to age as a woman.
Yeah, there's she obviously gets plastic surgery or no Botox, right?
Yeah, she gets Botox and fillers.
And then Samuel in the elevator spots her bruising where she's had the fillers, and she's sort of embarrassed, and he's like, "Oh, it looks good on you."
Yeah,
like a complete opposite opinion to what she has at home, and that shame of aging sort of dissipates in that moment.
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, their age difference, I think, is handled really well.
And their attitudes towards everything are so different.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no shame in, that the sex, in the surgery. He doesn't even seem to, in terms of an affair, it's very low-key. And, I mean, there is the theme of, obviously, she seems to only want to get off if there's something at stake.
Yeah.
That he spots. And sort of, I don't want to say preys upon, but she wants to get off, and that's the way she's going to get off. And he spots that.
Yeah, I'll get into Samuel's character later, because like the fact that you came away not liking him, I was very surprised by.
Right.
Because I don't feel that way at all, but I guess we'll sort of get into it. But yeah, as you said, like, and it's nice that even at the beginning, Romy and Jacob are sexually active. Like, they're obviously older, but they still have sex frequently. It may not be satisfying and gratifying.
It's satisfying for him.
For her, but it is for him, and she pretends. But yeah, I've got to imagine that's probably a fate worse than death, having an active sex life and not feeling satisfied by that. And then obviously, like you said, the daughter is like chiding her and there's so many moments where people say things to her. Jacob says to her about she's wearing an apron. He's like, why are you wearing that apron? And she just goes away looking like crestfallen. And it's like the little jibes like that really...
Just eating away at her.
Yeah. And in the scene where they're in the fancy hotel room, he's like, get undressed and all that stuff. And she's so ashamed. And he's like, take your hands away. And the only way she can do it is by him telling. Like, he says
and even
that...
then she feels this is why it's not very sexy, is it? Because of how ashamed and how awkward she is, that in those moments... You almost want to bang your head against the table and just like tell her to like loosen up. You want this.
Yeah.
And she's so resistant to it, and is almost playing coy with it, and is so dismissive at times.
She wants the onus taken off her.
Yeah.
But she cannot let go of it.
No.
She can't relent that control. And because he says something about what it's like giving and taking power, right? And she's like, well, did you look that up in a library?
Yeah.
And it's like, he is everything that she wants.
Yeah.
But she can't stop herself being dismissive and she's doing it in a way where like it is funny, but he is just like, at times he's like, oh my God, do you want this or do you not?
And or you're, as an audience member, are sort of wanting to scream this out.
And it's the first time where it feels like she is out of her depth. In those situations, she's so used to being in control and being... like handling everything, that in those situations she's having to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that is willingly putting yourself, like he says, I want you to undress, and she can't. She has such low.
And because at that point he's like, "Oh, you're beautiful," and she's like, "No, I'm not."
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very sad.
It is sad, but when you're like, her husband obviously loves her and still thinks she's attractive, but it's that horrible voice in the back of your brain.
Oh, it is. It's human nature.
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's like your daughter tells you that you look ugly, you look old. You're trying to do things to grasp onto that youth. And it's just, you're swimming against the tide. But literally, the scene where they go to the rave, right?
Yes.
He invites her in her business casual gowns. There's obviously like a sea of people. And she's like extending her arms out to him, and he is quite literally reaching through the tide of youth to drag her in.
Yeah.
She is swimming against a current.
Yeah.
And that current is being replaced by someone. It's the substance.
Yeah,
Have you ever dreamt of a younger... That is...
And it's why she's like, I don't want you seeing other women when he starts dating Esme. And it's like, babe... He's like, is that not your husband?
Yeah, literally. In this scene, it's the only time that she's not a mother, she's not a wife, she's not... And the young woman, like, in the club, like, kisses her and stuff, and she sort of kisses her a little bit and then, moves on. But it's that...
Youth
Yeah, it's the youth and it's the changing attitudes and it's the differences in sexuality. And another thing I really like is the daughter is a lesbian. And yeah, so there's a lot of parallels between Isabel and Romy as well. You know, that age theme is one of the main points of the movie.
You're very young. I don't want to hurt you.
Hurt me? I think I have power over you. Because I could make one call and you lose everything. Does that turn you on when I say that?
You mentioned, do I have any insights on the company?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I'm not sure how the AI...
I read it as replacements and human replacements.
Of evolution and adaptation.
But also it's about storage and I guess organisation, and she's very organised and her whole thing is based on
structure and rules.
Putting things in boxes.
That's interesting because like I've really noticed it in the scene where I think it's after she tells Jacob or before, she's sat on the sofa and like she's got two lamps and like the bookshelves are all so neatly organised and like everything is structure and rules, and there's a lot of visual examples of that as well.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that is the AI angle. The replacement of a better version of yourself. I mean, under the...
And she says like, oh, our technology sort of frees up people's time to do what they want. It's like, I don't think you want such a like elitist and warped and privileged view to have, that I thought sort of highlighted her disconnect with reality a bit. Because freeing up time to do what? There's no fucking jobs. You know what I mean? Like, you're replacing human labour for people to go do whatever, like, sort of free up people's time, and so that we don't have to employ that sort of labour.
She says something about freeing up time so that humans don't have to do automation.
Yeah.
So freeing up the menial side of working.
Right.
Like exporting that to someone or something that can do it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
and
but
then,
again, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's automation versus...
Yeah, I guess so.
Which I will obviously completely disagree with to a certain extent. I don't even like using the self-checkouts, but...
No way. With a sledge. See, that was better. They died better that way. How come? I thought the gun was better. Oh, no. With the new way people put out of jobs.
The only really other insight I have on that is that the company that she works for is called Tensile Automation.
Can I just say something before you get into it?
Yeah.
I didn't like the adverts in the movie. I thought
I can
they were
see
annoying.
that. It worked for me, but it was just on the cusp of...
I'd buy that for $1.
I completely understand that. But do you know what the word tensile means?
No.
It basically...
Is it the opposite of docile?
No, it means relating to tension. So something's ability to be stretched or flexible or yielding is basically what the word tensile means.
Okay.
She created this company.
Yeah.
This obviously plays into the themes of her ability to let go and her ability to be changed and just to be flexible.
Yeah.
She's not a flexible woman.
No.
She's a woman
very
of...
stuck in her ways.
Yeah. And I think her relationship with Samuel frees her from being a mother, being a wife, being a woman in a corporate environment, you know. And she is the top of the top. Like, she is the disgustingly rich 1%.
Yeah, she's a CEO. She's the sort of people that we should be not killing, but...
I think part of the reason their relationship works so much for them is the taboo and the thought that she could be liberated from being put in this box is what she grasps onto, and also being sexually satisfied is a big part of that as well. She loves her family and she doesn't want to lose it, but that thought is exciting because...
And it eats away at you, doesn't it?
It does, but... desire and fantasy isn't necessarily linked to who we are as people, or fantasy is fantasy.
Until it's not.
Exactly.
And when she crosses that line, it's no longer fantasy. Like, her watching porn is vastly different from her engaging in sex acts.
Yeah.
With a problematic age gap with someone who's not her husband. And that's why at the end I said, like, that sort of level of dishonesty, where if she was fantasizing about just, you know, sadomasochism, you'd be like, fine, but she's fantasizing about a specific person who she cheated on her husband with.
Yeah.
And that's seemingly how she's getting off now. That's not fantasy. That's reality.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think there's a lot of...
again, man here, so
take
everything I say with a pinch of salt. George is the authority on this movie.
Well, no.
This is a movie for women.
Because you are absolutely right. But I'm a bit like, you know what? Good for you, Gil. Good for you.
Yeah, just be dishonest for the rest of your life. I'm sure that'll work out
No.
fine. I'm sure nothing bad's ever going to happen again.
Well, we'll get to that because I do think that maybe there's a different perspective on that.
Sorry, that was inappropriate.
But anyway, the sexual fantasy element is if you don't fulfill those desires, this is where it spills over into reality and things get messy and things get complicated. Desire and fantasy is not the same as real life.
Yes.
And so as soon as you cross that boundary into your fantasy becoming reality, this is when
there's a big
issue
difference from
arise.
watching like stepmom porn to actually fucking your mother.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
The taboo ideas of fantasy are so much different. Everything changes when you act upon them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. But I think, you know, her relationship with Samuel is basically what allows her to move forward and change into the person that she always should have been. Like, remember the scene where she's like lying on the floor before she goes to the like play premiere and she's wearing that blue dress?
Yes.
And she's like writhing around on the floor, like, and she's putting herself into the confines of this dress, this role that she fulfills. And the final scene, you remember where one of the other CEOs or something is like, oh, he moved to Japan. Like, did you have anything to do with that?
Yes.
And she's like, I won't have you speaking to me that way. Fuck off, basically. And her relationship with Samuel basically empowered her to remember who she was when she started and when she was young. And because she says in the beginning when they have their first meeting, he's like, so how did you get started? And this is where the ping pong ball scene. So fucking funny.
It is very funny.
That harkens back to that where she's a person and she has her, yes, they're capitalist principles. And I think this is where you were just not going to get anything out of this movie because you just don't feel sympathy for people like that. But this is who she was when she started. And this is her ability to say fuck you to people who, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally, yeah.
She says, if I want to be humiliated, I'll pay someone to do that.
Which I thought was an interesting line because it sort of implies that she is, do you think, is paying for sex now?
No, I think it was just a catty comment.
Okay.
I think that's her post-liberation. I think she's let go of that shame surrounding her desire.
I didn't know whether,
Do you know what I mean?
No, totally. I just didn't know if it was
I can see
implying that she has now reached a point where she is comfortable with her sexual desires and will pay for them. Because again, there's a big difference between going to a sex worker than, especially for something like that where her husband generally can't offer her what she wants. And to go behind his back, to find that in someone that she clearly has deep feelings for.
Yeah.
It's not just about sex with Samuel.
Yeah, I think their relationship to me, and Samuel literally says to her, we're like two children playing.
Yes.
Like, it's natural.
Yeah.
And I think their dynamic, it's not really about sex. Like, it is about sex, but he's seeing her and giving her what she needs. I think it's really well done because of how nuanced it is in terms of its sexual politics and just like the effects of desire and what repression can do. And it's super interesting to me because Samuel's character I just think is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because he says like sort of post-coital talking about, and he's like, will you do therapy on me?
Yeah.
And that's where like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing comes in because that's what she does in EMDR. And he says like he likes himself differently when he's with her compared to when he's with Esme. And their relationships are just sort of completely different experiences to each of them because they're in this sort of love square, I guess. You've got Romy and Jacob, Romy and Samuel, Samuel and Esme. And then you've got, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in this scene, she says to him, you have this weird, like, otherworldly sense and ability to read people. And he's the only person that she's ever met that has been able... He literally took one look at this woman.
Yes, and knew exactly.
And knew exactly what she wanted and exactly what she needed. And she's caught so off guard by that the first time because he's like, I think you like being told what to do. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He doesn't know this woman. He doesn't know anything about this woman other than that she's a CEO. But he just continually challenges her. And when you're a woman, you don't have that space carved out for criticism. If you're that high up, you don't have room for being a human or being flawed. Whereas men, if that was a man who was fucking his younger secretary.
Isn't such a non-event.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, during the final confrontation scene when they're at the sort of
country house
and Jacob and Samuel start like fist fighting.
Yeah.
Again, very funny. It sort of mirrors the initial scene where he takes her to the hotel room, and he's the one, like you said, that calms Jacob down, and he knows in that moment what he needs. This man has just slept with your wife.
Yeah, you got cocked hard.
Yeah, and he leaves and is like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I think he had good intentions. And I guess maybe that's where our opinions differ.
Yeah, I don't really see Samuel as a character. I just don't really, I don't really know anything about him other than he's sort of like a blank slate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For Romy to
project
onto, because from the first moment we sort of don't really learn anything about him other than his sexual desires, and he doesn't even seem to get off on it.
Yeah, and I think that's where I think
you don't see him come or anything.
That's why I think it's slightly different, because, and he says his relationship with Esme is different to his relationship with Romy, and I think he just is able to call her out on her unchecked.
Yeah, I just don't really get his intentions.
I think his intentions are just to help her.
Right, yeah.
Because he can see what she wants and she's not getting it. Well, he does find her attractive.
Yeah.
And they do fuck.
Yeah.
So
I just don't really know anything about the character of Samuel, and other than what we do know, which I don't really particularly like about.
You have 7 minutes.
So, how did it start?
I see myself as a
Power-hungry personality?
You think that's what I am?
I think you like to be told what to do. Sorry, I didn't mean to...
What I like so much about his character is that he's not like Christian Grey. He's
sort of
learning
tactless.
along with her, and
but I don't know if I guess it's just the idea of him being a younger man is his character sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he is cheeky and stuff, and I just don't really know. I didn't find him that interesting. I found him more irritating. I know you're supposed to find him irritating.
Oh.
But my most feelings were just, I wanted him to get beaten the shit out of at the end.
Yeah, see, when you said that to me, I was very surprised because I didn't.
I don't really know why I'm rooting for him.
Yeah,
Now,
interesting.
again, I might be being pleb filtered here. I don't know.
I don't
just
know.
completely missed the point.
But I think the main takeaway of Samuel's character is that he's meant to be, he is that Gen Z stand-in and she is of that different generation. Because like even the first time he takes her to the hotel room, he's like, meet me in the hotel. And it's like some crappy motel. And then she takes him when they sort of their relationship starts to get serious to a hotel, and he's like, "Oh my god, there's like an entire living room," and like her disparity.
I thought that was very odd cut actually. It cuts really abruptly.
It does, yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
But,
I think it's supposed to be a comedy cut. But.
Yeah, and just like that disparity in wealth, and he has 2 jobs, and she's like intervening into his personal life when she really has no right to do that, and
she's sort of projecting her morality into him.
And Romy actually says later there's a difference between, I can't remember exactly what she says, morality and ethics or something, when she's talking to Esme when she's like blackmailing her. And yeah, I thought it was because she's a CEO, and I think the whole crux of the movie is
power
and the abject misery and detachment that comes with having power and wealth and greed and like, I don't know. I find it interesting, and he gets something out of their relationship.
Probably.
Because like when they're cuddling and talking about like the therapy and stuff, he's like, "Can you hold me?" And
if I'm being honest, I just thought it came out of the blue. I don't really understand Samuel's character, and that's my main, I think, problem with the movie.
That's fair. I mean, I think he can see what she wants, and he is just trying his best to give it to her.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's something that no one has ever done for her.
True.
Because her husband can't look past. They're having sex, so they must be fine. You know what I mean?
And also won't put his own sense of morality on the side to please her. He's like, I feel like a villain, sort of. And then at the end, he obviously says, masochist women don't exist. They only exist for the male gaze, and it's a male fantasy.
this is where I
this
think
is the last thing you need to say.
the dynamic is super interesting of their little love triangle, because his apology at the end, like he stands up and is like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And the way I see it anyway, I might be wrong, but I don't know. I love this movie. I buy it 100%. To me, he gave Romy what she so desperately desired.
Yeah.
And left Jacob with the knowledge that this desire is hers,
Yes.
and not a construct of like patriarchy or anything like that. And he leaves the country house and he walks over like a broken plant pot, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that is their relationship done. But then actually what we do now see is that this flower needs to be repotted and
Yes.
their romance will once again blossom. And I think he imparts his wisdom onto Jacob and is like, no, you are wrong.
Yes.
You are wrong about this. And you need to check yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so interesting. And I think that's why the age gap dynamic works so well, is because she is married to a man that's older than her.
Yeah.
And he is significant. Like he's 9 years older than her.
Yeah.
And he's 25 and she's 49. So
About 24.
nearly 25 years older than her. Than him, sorry.
Yeah, so he's like 33 years older
Yeah.
than Samuel.
Yeah, and so there's that antiquated view of female sexuality, and yeah, he's a good husband and he's a good father, but they have an active sex life, but he just can't satisfy her. And like, do you remember the scene where they're sort of having a debrief after the party and he's like, am I important to you? Am I relevant to you? And she's like, we're all irrelevant. And the avalanche is coming, which I find quite funny. But he's actually sat there eating a tub of like vanilla yogurt.
Yeah.
And it's like this guy is just, he is vanilla. There's no other way to describe him.
I
But
noticed that natural yogurt thing.
yeah, and it's so fucking funny.
Helena, when she was talking about the theme, she was also talking about the way in which the collision of generations and what they're teaching each other, and how the younger generation is teaching the older generation things. And I loved that.
In that scene, I think it's so well done because he sort of pathologizes Romy's desire as if it's like she's neurotic and it's a male fantasy. But Samuel is like, you are misunderstanding the point. And to me, that's the point of the movie.
Yes.
Is that,
and it's a good thesis.
Samuel leaves in his wake Jacob's ability to satisfy his wife.
Yeah.
And like, I can understand where you come from with your final take, but to me, the end of the movie is he actually manages to dominate her in a way that he is comfortable with and is authentic to him.
Yeah.
And it's got that emotional impact of all the years they've been together and their relationship, and she is satisfied finally.
Is she?
Yes, she looks into the camera and orgasms, and to me that is
thinking of Samuel.
But it's fantasy.
Is it? No, it's not fantasy though, because it's something that happened to her. They're doing the exact same act that her and Samuel did.
Yeah, I know, but she's doing it with her husband, and that's.
I don't think she is though.
I think that's where we differ, because to me that is, she has it now.
I don't think she's present in that moment because she's fantasizing.
But he
about
covers her eyes.
Yeah, true.
That to me is him allowing that.
Right. Yeah, I guess so. Well, it's interesting nonetheless. I haven't been swayed. I do think it's a great movie.
Another thing that I sort of really liked and made me laugh out loud is when Esme comes, Romy and Samuel are in the lift, and she literally walks into frame with her arm outstretched between the two of them. It's little moments like that I didn't get when I first watched it, but on the nose stuff like that I found particularly funny. When like Esme's like giving her final speech. This is another one of the examples when Romy's like in her little depression hole. She's hidden out at the fucking country house and she's just like got plates everywhere and isn't washing and all that crap. Esme's like voiceover, she's just been promoted and she's like, oh, I'd like to thank an amazing woman like Romy, like she's helped me get where I am. And in this speech, she literally says, if we dare to let go of expectation and move towards what scares us, we can often find unexpected strength. So this is obviously her voiceover going when Romy's just fucked everything up. And her daughter as well, Isabel, I think is a great character. She sort of comes over and is like, just come home, like Dad's reading the Bible.
Yeah, that is funny.
That stuff. And then Because when she gets caught kissing the neighbor, like Romy confronts her and she's like, "Oh, we're just like having fun."
Yes, yeah. She's like, I do love Mary, but we were just having fun.
Yeah. She's like, I'm in love with Mary, but I'm just having fun with Ophelia. And then sort of at the end, when they're having this chat, she's like, Mary forgave me.
Yes.
And that is that generational, these women are just incapable of keeping it in their pants.
I know.
In an honest and endearing way, I think.
Yeah. And the honesty of Gen Z is obviously so different from the repression of...
You know, when she comes downstairs and Isabel's like smoking under the extractor fan and you think she's going to like tell her off and then she just goes over there and smokes with her. And again, that's after the whole Samuel thing. And it's like she's finding new ways to connect with her children once she's got rid of this little man in the corner of the room that like haunts everything that she does.
I genuinely believe women with power would behave differently.
I mean, the last thing that I just sort of want to just touch on was the sort of motif of dancing, which I really like.
Yeah, there's a lot of dancing.
There's loads of dancing. And I guess you can see dancing as like sort of like an uninhibited freedom of expression. Like it's physical, like we said, you know, in the Suspiria remake, dancing is a very powerful and moving thing. And obviously the daughter Nora, she always goes on about being a dancer and she
always wants to show off her dancing.
Yeah, and she has like sort of traditional outfit for it, and the style of dancing that she does is called tarantella. It's like an Italian, traditional sort of dance. And this is often, I sort of looked into this because I was like, there's definitely something behind this. And this is often like performed by couples and it's categorized as being like quite flirtatious. And it's also said that it sort of provided women at the time of when it was basically, it's a disease of being bitten by a tarantula, gives you tarantella or something. And apparently frenzied dancing cures it. So this is sort of where this all comes from. It's also a region of Italy. It's quite an interesting sort of backstory. Anyway, this is sort of characterized by a release of emotion and a way for women to express themselves and be shameless without the fear of judgment. So this all sort of goes behind the daughter's dancing. Then you've obviously got Romy's reluctant to dance with her family at like the Christmas party. Samuel's father figure dance as well. I love that moment. I think really it's so good. And then obviously the rave. It's a different kind of dancing, but you know the themes are still there. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about the first milk drinking scene.
I wish there was more like that in this movie.
The way that it's framed is absolutely fucking hilarious because it looks like she's sucking him off. Like he's stood there, the milk sort of comes up the middle of the frame diagonally, and then she's drinking. Obviously looks like she's drinking his cum. Very funny. And
so all of the sex scenes I thought were really good. The little where he has the little candy and makes her walk on all fours. The like drinking milk out of a tray and stuff I thought was hot. I thought a lot of it was really good. And don't get me wrong, I really do think it's a great movie. I enjoyed it. And Nicole Kidman was fantastic, and so was Harris Dickinson, and the entire cast was great.
Yeah. Another line, just to round off, there's a bit where she goes to the premiere. He's like, you have a phone addiction? And she goes, no, Stephen, I have a job.
Yeah, so good.
I love that moment.
Yeah, it's very funny. I probably should watch it again to get the full experience. But no, definitely worth checking out, I would say.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The screenings have been full of a lot of women, which is always funny.
Yeah, it's funny. I just, the girls in front of us just kept like looking at each other the entire screen.
Giggling, yeah.
Good for them. Go girls. Girls get it done. Anyway, let's go see The Brutalist.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go see a boy movie.
Yeah, 3 hours, 35 minutes.
Yeah, making you watch me Master and Commander next week.
Yeah, love. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Your behavior is unacceptable.
Is it?
So yeah, that was basically my thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that you've sort of made me change my mind slightly on it. I can see where you're coming from a lot now. Full disclosure as well, we're recording this intro a couple of days after recording the pod, so I've had time to sort of sit on it a bit and think about it. Digest it more, and I do think for the most part you're right. Still think we disagree about that ending.
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about cinema is that we can take different things away.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's one of those things that I read the script, which I'm actually going to start doing for every podcast episode, because I think you really get and she wrote this movie,
Yes,
obviously.
yeah,
We
yeah.
talked, obviously, earlier about Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. She directed that, but she didn't write it. Whereas this one, she writes it, and I think her sense of humour really comes through in the script.
Yes.
And I think you can see her intentions for the movie a lot more.
Definitely, and I've watched some interviews for editing the pod that we've done so far, and her sense of humour definitely does come across, and I do sort of get where she's coming from a bit more now than I did. So yeah, no, definitely worth checking out, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, hopefully it does well.
Yeah, I think it has. And I mean, people that are in the screening seem to really enjoy it. And it seems very jovial and like, I don't think I even brought this up when we were actually talking about the podcast, but we basically went on opening night. Me and my best friend went. That was so much fun. It's a proper girls' night out movie, like we said about the girls in front of us. And there was like an older couple in front of us, and they were like talking at full volume all the way through the trailers. And I was like,
Standard.
Whatever, it is what it is. It's the trailers. I don't really give a fuck. And then they were talking to each other throughout the movie. And then about 40 minutes in, it was actually during the "You're My Baby Girl" scene. They just stood up and were like, I'm too old for this, at full volume, obviously, and just walked out of the screening. And
Respect, man.
me and Elise and the people next to me and the people next to her and the people next to them were all like hysterically laughing for like minutes.
Yeah.
So I was really glad I got to see that scene again when we rewatched it, because it sort of dampened the impact. But no, it seems to be very unserious. And it's a good time. It's a lot of fun. And I think audiences are sort of seeing the humour in it, which is nice.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, check it out. Thank you for listening to this week's Idle Film Club. What are we doing next time?
We are doing another musician biopics
We're
episode.
doing a sequel to the musician biopics. We are going to see, I've already seen it, but Georgia hasn't, A Complete Unknown. We're going to that in about half an hour.
Yeah. And we've got some updates on the Beatles biopic. We've got some more announcements. We've got drama.
25 new announcements of musician biopics.
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, tune in. We're also going to do another idle chat. Hopefully this one works, because we seem to just keep doing idle chats that never make it to air because they're not good. But I think we're going to do Final Destination
3,
and talk about the Final Destination franchise.
For
so
sure.
that's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll get that out probably this month, maybe early February. We'll probably do a Valentine's Day special this year.
Yeah.
So if you have any ideas...
Maybe we'll do our favourite horny movies.
Fuck yeah.
A la Baby Girl.
A la The Duke of Burgundy.
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for listening as always.
Have a lovely rest of your week.
I've been Callum.
And I've been Chia.
We haven't
Speak
done
to
that
you
before.
soon. No. Are we
thing.
trialling this?
Yeah. And this has been Idle Film Club. Thank you for listening. Ta-ra!
Bye.
Bye.
I don't like these movies.
Get real.
And I saw that movie 20 goddamn times!
Just consume fun. I watch my movies. Yeah, my movies are the best.
Having so much fun!
Oh, this movie's too complicated.
So once again, no smoking in this theater.